The bass from the speakers shook the crystal glasses on the table as Ryan leaned back in his leather chair, barely listening to his friends argue about their latest purchases. At 28, he had more money than he knew what to do with. His tech company had exploded 3 years ago, and since then, life had become one long party filled with people who laughed at his jokes whether they were funny or not. "I'm telling you, the Maldives are overrated," Jason was saying, swirling his drink. "You want a real vacation, go private island in Fiji." "I bought one last month," Ryan rolled his eyes. Everyone in their circle was trying to one-up each other constantly. It was exhausting, but it was also the only life he knew anymore. Sometimes he missed the days when he was just a regular guy building apps in his tiny apartment, surviving on instant noodles and coffee. Back then, at least things felt real. "You're all soft," Derek announced, slamming his glass on the marble table. Derek was old money, the kind of guy who wore his grandfather's watch and never let anyone forget it. You buy things to prove you're successful. Real power is influence. It's making things happen that shouldn't be possible. "Oh, here we go," Ryan muttered. Derek loved these philosophical moments, especially after his fourth whiskey. "I'm serious," Derek continued, his eyes gleaming with that look he got when he was about to propose something stupid. "Ryan, you talk a big game about being self-made, about understanding people and what makes them tick. But you've been living in this bubble so long, I bet you couldn't even relate to regular people anymore." Ryan sat up straighter. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," Derek said slowly, enjoying the attention of the whole table now, "that you think you're some kind of genius who can figure anyone out, sell anything to anyone. But you've lost touch, man. You couldn't survive one day in the real world anymore." The other guys around the table shifted, sensing something brewing. Ryan felt his jaw tighten. He hated when Derek tried to make him look small, especially in front of everyone. "That's ridiculous," Ryan shot back. "Success isn't about luck. It's about understanding people, knowing what they need, what motivates them. That doesn't change whether someone has money or not." Derek smiled, and Ryan immediately knew he'd walked into a trap. "Prove it," Derek said simply. "Prove what?" "Prove you can still connect with regular people. Better yet, prove you can transform someone's life completely. Take someone from nothing and bring them into our world." Derek gestured around the exclusive club's VIP section, where every membership cost more than most people made in a year. Ryan laughed, but it sounded hollow even to his own ears. "That's not a challenge, that's just throwing money at someone." "No," Derek leaned forward, his voice dropping. "I'm not talking about just giving someone a makeover. I'm talking about really transforming them, teaching them how to move in our circles, how to think like we do, how to belong. And to make it interesting, you'd have to fully commit, not just play mentor from a distance." "What do you mean, fully commit?" Jason asked, his phone camera already out, sensing content for his social media. Derek's smile widened. "I mean, you'd have to get engaged to whoever you choose. Real engagement, real ring, real announcement. If you can take someone from the streets and turn them into someone who belongs at society events, someone who nobody would question as your fiancé, then you'll prove you still have it, that your success wasn't just timing and luck." The table erupted in reactions. Some guys laughed, others whistled, a few shook their heads. Ryan felt his heart racing. This was insane. This was exactly the kind of stupid, arrogant thing that Derek would propose. "And what do I get when I prove you wrong?" Ryan asked, hating himself for even considering it but unable to back down in front of everyone. "When you prove me wrong?" Derek chuckled. "You mean if you can pull this off in 3 months, I'll invest $2 million in whatever project you want. No questions asked, no strings attached. But when you fail, you donate $5 million to charity and admit publicly that you're just another rich kid who got lucky." Ryan's mind raced. $2 million was nothing to him financially, but Derek's network and backing on a project could open doors even his money couldn't. Plus, the way Derek said, "when you fail," made Ryan's competitive side flare up. He'd built his company from scratch while Derek had inherited everything. Who was Derek to question his abilities? "You're seriously proposing I get engaged to a random person as a bet?" Ryan said, trying to find the angle that would let him walk away from this with dignity. "Not a random person," Derek corrected. "Someone who really needs help. Someone from the streets. That way the transformation is real, the challenge is real, and you actually help someone in the process, see? I'm not completely heartless." The twisted logic actually made sense in Ryan's whiskey-clouded mind. He could help someone, prove Derek wrong, and show everyone that his success was about skill, not luck. What could go wrong? Ryan stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the street below. The club was in downtown Manhattan, right in the heart of everything. Below, the city pulsed with life, people moving like ants between the buildings. And there, on the corner near the subway entrance, he saw her. A young woman sat with her back against the brick wall, a cardboard sign in her lap, a backpack clutched close to her chest. Even from this distance, Ryan could see she was young, probably mid-20s. Her dark hair was pulled back and she wore layers of clothing despite the mild evening. She wasn't begging aggressively like some of the others. She just sat there watching people pass by, occasionally saying something when someone dropped change in her cup. Her, Ryan said, pointing. He couldn't believe the word had left his mouth, but it was too late now. Derek was beside him in an instant, looking down at the street. Perfect. This is going to be entertaining. Wait, you're actually doing this? Jason asked, his phone now definitely recording. Ryan turned back to the table. Everyone was staring at him with a mixture of shock and excitement. These were the moments they lived for, the crazy stories they could tell at parties for years. And Ryan was about to become either the hero or the joke of the story. 3 months, Ryan said firmly. 3 months and she'll fit perfectly into any event you want to throw at us. Deal? Derek extended his hand, that predatory smile still on his face. Deal, but there are rules. You have to actually get engaged, meaning a real proposal, a real ring, real social media announcements. You have to bring her to at least 3 major society events, and you can't tell her about the bet. If she finds out and walks away, you lose automatically. That last rule made Ryan uncomfortable, but he was too far in now. He shook Derek's hand, sealing his fate. 20 minutes later, Ryan found himself standing on the street corner, his designer shoes touching the grimy sidewalk as he approached the young woman. Up close, he could see she was probably 24 or 25, with tired eyes that had seen too much. Her sign read simply, "Anything helps." "God bless, hi," Ryan said, then immediately felt stupid. What was he supposed to say? He'd given plenty of money to homeless people before, but he'd never actually talked to one. The woman looked up at him warily. "I don't want any trouble," she said quietly. No trouble," Ryan said quickly, crouching down to her level. This is going to sound crazy, but I have a proposition for you." She pulled her backpack closer, her body language screaming distrust. Smart, Ryan thought. She'd probably heard every scam in the book. "I'm not a creep," Ryan continued, fumbling for his wallet. He pulled out a business card and his driver's license. "My name is Ryan Mitchell. I own a tech company. You can look me up. Look, this is going to sound insane, but I want to help you get back on your feet." The woman stared at him for a long moment. Why? It was such a simple question, but Ryan didn't have a good answer. Because of a stupid bet? Because his ego couldn't handle Derek's challenge? Those weren't reasons that would make him sound like anything other than the privileged jerk he was starting to realize he might be. "Because I can," he finally said. "And because, honestly, I don't know. Maybe I need to remind myself that there's more to life than VIP sections and expensive drinks. Maybe you remind me of someone. Does the reason matter if I'm genuinely offering help?" She studied his face, and Ryan felt like she was seeing right through him in a way his business associates never did. Finally, she spoke. "What kind of help?" "The real kind," Ryan said, committing fully now. "A place to stay, clean clothes, help finding a job, whatever you need. But there's something I need in return." There it was. The catch. He saw her shoulders tense. "I need a fiancé," Ryan said, and even to his own ears it sounded ridiculous. "For 3 months. It's complicated, but basically, I made a bet with some friends that I could... Look, the details don't matter. What matters is that for 3 months you'd live comfortably, get back on your feet, and at the end you walk away with enough money to start over properly. Real money, enough for an apartment, job training, whatever you need." The woman stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "You want me to pretend to be your fiancé? For a bet?" "I know how it sounds," Ryan said quickly. "But think about it. 3 months of safety, regular meals, a warm bed. I have a guest house you could stay in, completely private. You'd have to come to some events with me, learn some social etiquette, but that's it. No strings attached, nothing weird. Just help me prove a point and I help you get your life back on track." She was quiet for so long that Ryan thought she might just tell him to leave. Finally, she spoke. "What's your angle? Nobody offers something for nothing." "My angle is that I'm tired of people assuming I'm just a lucky idiot who stumbled into success," Ryan admitted. more honestly than he'd planned. And yeah, it's a selfish reason. But you'd still benefit. Isn't that what matters? The woman looked down at her sign, then at her cup with maybe $5 in change. She looked at her backpack, which probably contained everything she owned. Then she looked back at Ryan with those tired, knowing eyes. If I say yes and this turns out to be some kind of trafficking thing or worse, I have friends who'll notice I'm gone, she said firmly. I'm not completely alone. Ryan nodded, respecting her caution. Smart. Take my information, call anyone you want to verify who I am. I'll come back tomorrow. Same time, same place. You can give me your answer then. He stood up, pulled out $500 in cash and set it on the ground next to her. For tonight. Whatever you decide tomorrow, that's yours. No strings. As Ryan walked away, he heard her call out. Why me? There are hundreds of people on these streets. Ryan turned back. Honestly? I don't know. Maybe because you're the first person who asked me why instead of just saying yes. Maybe that means you're smart enough to pull this off. He didn't wait for a response. As he walked back toward the club, his phone already buzzing with texts from his friends demanding updates, Ryan wondered what he'd just started. He looked back once and saw the woman still sitting there, holding his business card, staring at it like it might explode. Tomorrow would tell him if he was a genius or the biggest fool in Manhattan. Right now, walking back into the club's golden light and designer excess, Ryan honestly couldn't tell which one he hoped to be. Ryan couldn't sleep that night. He kept thinking about the woman on the street corner, wondering if she'd actually show up the next day or if she'd take the $500 and disappear. Part of him hoped she wouldn't come back. That would be the easy way out, a sign from the universe that this whole thing was a terrible idea. But the next evening, there she was. Same corner, same spot, but something was different. She'd washed her face and her hair was braided neatly. The $500 had probably bought her a gym membership for showers, maybe a decent meal or two. She stood up when she saw him approaching. I have conditions, she said before Ryan could even say hello. He stopped, surprised. Okay, I want everything in writing. A contract that says I get to leave whenever I want, that you won't try anything inappropriate, and that at the end of 3 months I get $10,000 plus help finding a real job. Not just cash and a pat on the back. Ryan felt a spark of respect. She'd thought this through. Done. Anything else? I keep my real name private until I trust you. You can call me Lily for now, and I want to know what happened to you that made you think this was a good idea, because normal people don't do this. Ryan laughed despite himself. Fair question. Let's get you somewhere warm and I'll tell you the whole stupid story. 2 hours later, they sat in a quiet diner booth, Lily working through her second burger while Ryan explained the bet. Derek's challenge and his own idiotic need to prove himself. He left nothing out, figuring she deserved the whole truth even if Derek's rules said she couldn't know. Wait, Derek's rules said she couldn't know about the bet and walk away. But what if she knew and stayed anyway? That was a loophole Ryan could work with. So basically you're using me to win a pissing contest with your rich friends, Lily said flatly, wiping her mouth with a napkin. Yeah, Ryan admitted. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm not going to pretend this is some noble gesture. It's selfish, but you'd still get something real out of it. Is that enough? Lily was quiet for a moment, staring at her empty plate. You know what the worst part about being homeless is? It's not the cold or the hunger, though those are bad enough. It's that everyone looks through you. You become invisible. People step over you like you're a piece of trash on the sidewalk. So yeah, being part of some rich guy's bet isn't ideal, but at least you're seeing me. At least I'm a person to you, even if it's for the wrong reasons. The honesty in her voice hit Ryan harder than he expected. He'd never thought about it that way. For what it's worth, Ryan said carefully, I am sorry that this started as a bet. You deserve better than that. Everyone deserves better than what they get, Lily said with a shrug. But we work with what we have. So yeah, I'll do it. Let's see if you can turn a homeless girl into a society princess. Should be entertaining if nothing else. The next morning, Ryan's lawyer drew up a contract that gave Lily every protection she'd asked for and more. She read every word twice before signing. Then Ryan drove her to his estate in the Hamptons, watching her face as they passed through the gates. You live here? Like this whole place? Lily asked, staring at the mansion and grounds. It's too much, I know, Ryan said. I bought it because Derek has an estate and Jason has an estate, and I guess I thought I needed one too. I barely use half of it. The guest house where Lily would stay was nicer than most people's actual homes. 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, a bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people. Lily walked through it slowly, touching things like she was afraid they might disappear. "This is really mine? For 3 months?" she asked. "It's yours," Ryan confirmed. "I'll have some clothes delivered tomorrow, and I've hired a stylist and an etiquette coach to help with the society events. But tonight, just rest, take a shower, sleep in a real bed, and we'll start fresh in the morning." Lily turned to him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Why are you being nice about this? You could just order me around. I signed the contract." "Because you're a person, not a project," Ryan said, "and because I'm starting to realize that I might learn as much from this as you will." Over the next few weeks, Ryan's life fell into a strange new rhythm. His mornings started with checking in on Lily, who was working with the stylist and etiquette coach he'd hired. The stylist, Patricia, was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who treated Lily like a real client, not a charity case. The etiquette coach, George, was a retired butler who'd worked for old money families and knew every unspoken rule of high society, but it was the evenings that surprised Ryan. He'd expected to drop Lily off with the tutors and go back to his regular life, but somehow he kept finding excuses to stick around. At first, it was just to check on her progress. Then it became dinner together, where they'd talk about how the lessons went. One night, about 3 weeks in, Ryan found Lily in his library. He'd forgotten she had access to the main house, and honestly, he'd forgotten the library existed. It was one of those rooms he'd furnished because estate homes were supposed to have libraries, filling it with leather-bound classics he'd never read. "Sorry," Lily said when she noticed him. "George said I could explore. I hope that's okay." "No, it's fine," Ryan said, walking in. "I just didn't expect anyone to actually use this room." Lily was holding a worn copy of The Great Gatsby, and she had that look people get when they're really into a book, like the rest of the world had faded away. "You've read that?" Ryan asked. "About 6 times, Lily said. "I was an English major before everything fell apart. Made it through 3 years before my mom got sick and the medical bills started piling up." Ryan sat down in one of the leather chairs he'd never used. "What happened?" Lily's expression shifted, becoming more guarded. "Cancer, the aggressive kind. We didn't have good insurance. I dropped out to take care of her and work, but it wasn't enough. We lost our apartment, then she died anyway. And by then I'd lost my job because I'd missed too much work. It's funny how fast your life can fall apart. One day you're worried about midterm exams, the next you're trying to figure out which shelter has open beds." "I'm sorry," Ryan said, and he meant it. "That's horrible." "It is what it is," Lily said, but her voice was tight. "Anyway, I found this whole collection of books I loved in college. You have good taste even if you don't read them." "I didn't pick them," Ryan admitted. "An interior designer did. They're just for show." Lily looked at him with something like pity. "That's sad. These are amazing books. This whole room is wasted on you." Ryan should have been offended, but instead he laughed. "You're probably right. What else is in there worth reading?" That became their new evening routine. Lily would pick a book and they'd talk about it over dinner. At first, Ryan just listened while Lily explained themes and symbolism and why certain authors mattered. But gradually he started actually reading, staying up late to finish chapters so he could discuss them with her the next day. "You're not as dumb as you pretend to be," Lily told him one night after a long discussion about 1984. "I'm not pretending," Ryan said. "I just never cared about this stuff before. I was too focused on building my company, making money, proving I could succeed." "And now?" Lily asked. "Now I'm not sure what I was trying to prove or who I was trying to prove it to," Ryan admitted. "Talking to you is different than talking to my friends. You actually challenge me. They just agree with whatever I say." Lily set down her wine glass, fixing him with that direct stare of hers. "That's because your friends aren't your friends. They're your accessories. They hang around because you're successful and you pick up the tab. When was the last time any of them asked how you were really doing?" The question hit harder than Ryan expected because he couldn't remember. His friendships were all surface level, all about the next party, the next investment, the next competition. Even this bet with Derek wasn't about genuine friendship. It was about ego and one-upmanship. "That's depressing," Ryan said. "Welcome to reality," Lily replied. "At least on the streets, people were honest about what they wanted. Nobody pretended to care when they didn't." As the weeks continued, Ryan started noticing things about Lily that had nothing to do with the transformation Derek expected, like how she always saved half her dinner and asked to take it home. Old habits from never knowing where the next meal would come from. Or how she'd startle awake at small noises, still on edge from months of sleeping rough. Or how she refused to let Ryan pay for a therapist, insisting she'd deal with her own problems when she could afford to. "That's stupid," Ryan said when she turned down his offer for the third time. "You went through trauma. Talking to someone would help." "I know it would," Lily said calmly. "But I need to pay for it myself or it won't mean anything. When I get a real job and earn real money, then I'll go. But I won't take handouts for something that personal." "This whole arrangement is a handout," Ryan pointed out. "No, this is a job," Lily corrected him. "A weird, unconventional job, but I'm providing a service. You're paying me to play a role. That's different from accepting charity." Ryan was starting to understand that Lily's pride wasn't stubbornness. It was survival. It was the thing that had kept her human when everything else was stripped away. And he respected it more than he'd respected anything in a long time. 6 weeks in, something shifted. Ryan came home early from a meeting and heard crying from the guest house. He knocked softly, and when Lily opened the door, her eyes were red and swollen. "What happened?" Ryan asked, immediately worried. "Nothing. It's stupid," Lily said, wiping her face. "George was teaching me about formal dinner service, and I got overwhelmed. All these rules about which fork to use and how to hold a conversation and making sure I laugh at the right times but not too loud. It just hit me how much work it takes for you people to pretend to be natural. How exhausting your world is." Ryan didn't know what to say. She was right. His entire social life was performance, carefully calibrated to impress and maintain status. He'd just never thought about it before. "You don't have to do this," Ryan said quietly. "If it's too much, we can call it off." Lily shook her head. "No, I signed a contract. I finish what I start. I just needed a minute to feel sorry for myself. I'm fine now." But she wasn't fine, and Ryan knew it. He made a decision in that moment, one that would probably complicate everything but felt right anyway. "Let's skip the lessons tomorrow," Ryan said. "Let's just do something normal." "What did you used to do for fun before everything happened?" Lily looked surprised. "Normal people fun or rich people fun? Whatever you want." "I used to go to this used bookstore in Brooklyn," Lily said slowly. "They had a cat that would sleep on the philosophy section, and the owner made amazing coffee. I'd spend hours there just reading and existing without anyone bothering me. It probably doesn't exist anymore." "Let's find out," Ryan said. The next day, they drove into Brooklyn in Ryan's least flashy car, which still cost more than most people's houses but at least wasn't a sports car. The bookstore was still there, looking exactly the same as Lily described. The cat was older now, gray around the muzzle, but still claimed the philosophy section as its territory. Ryan watched Lily transform the moment they walked in. Her shoulders relaxed. Her smile became real instead of practiced. She moved through the stacks like she was coming home, pulling books and reading passages out loud, laughing at funny parts. This was the real Lily, the one who existed before life knocked her down. "Thank you for this," she said as they sat in the corner with coffee, the cat purring on the table between them. "Thank you," Ryan replied. "For what?" "For reminding me that there's more to life than status and money and winning bets. For challenging me. For being real with me when everyone else just tells me what I want to hear." Lily looked at him for a long moment, and Ryan felt something shift between them, something that had nothing to do with the bet or the arrangement or any of it. "You know what's funny?" Lily said softly. "I came into this thinking you were just another spoiled rich guy who saw me as a project. And you kind of are that guy. But you're also not. There's someone decent under all that expensive cologne and designer clothes, someone who actually listens. I didn't expect that." "I didn't expect you either," Ryan admitted. "I thought this would be simple. Teach you some etiquette, parade you around at events, win the bet, everyone goes home happy. But you're not simple. You're complicated and smart, and you make me question everything about my life. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" Lily asked. Ryan didn't have an answer. All he knew was that somewhere between the library discussions and the late-night conversations and moments like this, the lines had blurred. Lily wasn't just part of a bet anymore. She was becoming someone important to him, someone real in a life full of artificial relationships, and that terrified him more than any business deal ever had. On the drive home, Lily fell asleep in the passenger seat, her head resting against the window. Ryan glanced over at her and felt his chest tighten. In 2 months, this would be over. Lily would take her money and start her real life, and he'd go back to his empty mansion and fake friends. The thought made him feel hollow in a way he hadn't felt in years. He was supposed to be teaching her how to fit into his world. But somehow, she was teaching him that maybe his world wasn't worth fitting into at all, and he had no idea what to do with that realization. The invitation arrived on thick cream paper with gold lettering. Derek was throwing his annual charity gala, the kind of event where Manhattan's elite gathered to write checks and feel good about themselves. It was exactly the kind of test Derek had promised, and Ryan knew this was the moment everything would either come together or fall apart completely. "I'm not ready," Lily said, staring at the invitation like it might bite her. They were sitting in Ryan's actual living room now, not the guest house. Somewhere over the past 2 months, the boundaries had dissolved. Lily had started joining him for breakfast, staying for dinner, falling asleep on his couch during movie nights. The guest house had become just a place where she kept her clothes. "You're more than ready," Ryan assured her. "George says you've mastered everything. Patricia says you look like you were born in designer gowns. You know more about art and literature than half the people who'll be there." "That's not what I'm worried about," Lily said quietly. "Then what?" She looked at him with those eyes that always seemed to see too much. "I'm worried about what happens after. We go to this event, we play the happy couple, everyone believes it. Then what, we keep pretending? We wait for the 3 months to end and then I just disappear from your life like I was never here?" Ryan felt his stomach twist. He'd been avoiding thinking about the end date, pushing it out of his mind whenever it came up. In just 3 weeks, their arrangement would be over. Lily would get her money and they'd go their separate ways. That was the deal. "We don't have to think about that now," Ryan said. "Yes, we do," Lily insisted. "Because I need to protect myself, Ryan. I need to remember that this isn't real, that we're not actually together, that you're not actually my person. Because if I forget that, if I let myself believe this is something it's not, it's going to destroy me when it ends." The words hung in the air between them. Ryan wanted to tell her that maybe it had become real, that somewhere along the way he'd stopped pretending, but he couldn't, because she was right to protect herself. He'd brought her into this mess with his stupid ego and his need to prove Derek wrong. She deserved better than his confusion about what he was feeling. "You're right," Ryan said finally. "We keep it professional. We do the event, finish out the 3 months, and then you start your new life. That's the plan." Lily nodded, but something in her expression looked broken. She stood up quickly. "I should go practice with Patricia one more time. Make sure the dress fits right." She left before Ryan could say anything else. He sat there in his empty living room surrounded by expensive furniture and original artwork, and felt more alone than he had in years. The night of the gala arrived too quickly. Ryan wore his usual designer tuxedo, the one that cost more than most people's monthly rent. But when Lily emerged from the guest house, he forgot how to breathe. Patricia had outdone herself. The deep blue gown fit Lily perfectly, elegant without being showy. Her hair was styled in a way that looked effortless but probably took hours. The makeup was subtle, just enough to highlight her features without hiding who she was. She wore simple diamond earrings that Ryan had bought for the occasion, and she looked absolutely stunning. But what really got Ryan was the expression on her face. She looked confident, poised, like she'd been attending events like this her whole life. All those weeks of training had paid off. Derek wouldn't find a single crack in her armor. "You look incredible," Ryan said, and his voice came out rougher than he intended. "You don't look bad yourself," Lily replied with a small smile. "Ready to show me off to your friends?" "Ready to show you off to everyone," Ryan corrected. The drive to the venue was quiet. Ryan could feel the tension radiating off Lily despite her calm exterior. He reached over and took her hand without thinking, squeezing it gently. "You've got this," he said. "Just be yourself." "That's all you need to be." "Myself wouldn't survive 5 minutes in there," Lily said, but she squeezed his hand back. The gala was being held at one of Manhattan's most exclusive venues. All marble columns and crystal chandeliers. Photographers lined the entrance, cameras flashing as guests arrived. Ryan felt Lily tense beside him as they approached. "Smile," he whispered. "You're my fiancé, remember? You're supposed to be happy." Lily's smile was perfect, bright, and genuine looking, even though Ryan could feel how tightly she gripped his arm. They posed for photos, and Ryan announced to anyone who asked that yes, they were engaged, and yes, they were very happy. Inside, the party was exactly what Ryan expected. Waiters circulated with champagne and tiny appetizers that cost a fortune and tasted like air. A string quartet played in the corner while people in designer clothes air-kissed and talked about their vacations and investments. Derek spotted them immediately, cutting through the crowd with Jason and a few other guys from their circle. "Ryan, my friend," Derek said with that smile that always made Ryan's skin crawl. "And this must be the famous fiancé. We've heard so much about you." "All good things, I hope," Lily said smoothly, extending her hand. Her voice was warm but not desperate for approval, exactly the tone George had taught her. "I'm Lily. It's lovely to meet Ryan's friends." "The pleasure is ours," Derek said, and Ryan could see him analyzing every detail of Lily's appearance, looking for flaws, for proof that she didn't belong. "How did you two meet?" Ryan's been surprisingly secretive about the whole romance. Ryan felt his chest tighten, but Lily didn't miss a beat. "It's a bit of an unusual story," she said with a laugh that sounded completely natural. "But I suppose the best love stories usually are. Ryan quite literally swept me off my feet when I was going through a difficult time. He saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. It was perfect, vague enough not to lie, specific enough to sound real." Derek's smile tightened slightly. "How sweet," Jason said, already recording on his phone. "Young love." Nothing like it. The evening progressed and Lily was flawless. She made conversation with stuffy old donors about their grandchildren. She laughed at boring stories from Ryan's business associates. She even managed to discuss modern art with a pretentious gallery owner without rolling her eyes, which was more than Ryan could usually manage. Ryan watched her work the room and felt a surge of pride that had nothing to do with the bet. She wasn't just playing a role anymore. She was being herself, just the polished version that circumstances had never let her show before. "She's quite something," a woman's voice said beside him. Ryan turned to find Mrs. Chen, an old friend of his grandmother's, and one of the most respected women in their social circle. If anyone could spot a fake, it was her. "She is," Ryan agreed. "You're in love with her," Mrs. Chen said matter-of-factly. "Don't bother denying it. I've been watching people fall in love for 70 years. I know what it looks like." Ryan opened his mouth to protest, but Mrs. Chen held up her hand. "The question is, does she know? And more importantly, does she feel the same way?" Mrs. Chen fixed him with a knowing look. "Whatever your story is, young man, don't let your pride ruin something real. We don't get many chances at real in this world." Before Ryan could respond, Mrs. Chen walked away, leaving him standing there with his thoughts spinning. Was it that obvious? Could everyone see what he'd been trying to hide even from himself? He found Lily on the balcony taking a break from the crowd. The city sparkled below them, millions of lights representing millions of lives that had nothing to do with charity galas and designer gowns. "You were amazing in there," Ryan said, joining her at the railing. "I was acting," Lily said quietly, "playing pretend, just like we agreed." "It didn't look like pretending to me." "That's because I'm getting good at it," Lily said, and there was something sharp in her voice. "That's what you wanted, right? For me to fit in so perfectly that nobody could tell I didn't belong." "Lily, I need some air," she said, even though they were already outside. "I'm going to find the restroom. I'll be back." She walked away before Ryan could stop her, and he felt like he'd said something wrong but didn't know what. He stood there on the balcony trying to figure out how everything had gotten so complicated. Inside, he headed toward the bar, needing a drink. That's when he heard it. Derek and Jason were in a corner, talking loudly enough that Ryan could hear them from across the room. They were drunk, celebrating something. "I can't believe you actually pulled it off," Jason was saying. "She's perfect. Nobody would ever guess." "Ryan always did have a talent for selling things," Derek replied, "even when the product is fake." "Do you think she knows it's all a bet?" Jason asked. "Does it matter?" Derek laughed. "She's getting paid, he's winning $2 million, everyone's happy. Although I've got to admit, watching him pretend to be in love has been entertaining. Guy's a better actor than I gave him credit for." Ryan's blood ran cold. They were talking loud enough that people nearby could hear. Loud enough that he turned and saw Lily standing at the entrance to the room. Her face was pale, her expression frozen. She'd heard everything. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and Ryan saw the exact moment her heart broke. She didn't make a scene. That would have been easier somehow. Instead, she just turned and walked away, moving quickly toward the exit. Ryan pushed through the crowd, ignoring people trying to talk to him, focused only on catching up to her. He found her in the hallway outside, fumbling with her clutch, trying to call a car. "Lily, wait, don't," she said, and her voice was shaking. "Don't say anything. I can explain." "Explain what?" Lily spun to face him, and her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Explain that everything was a lie? That I was just part of a game to you? That all those conversations and moments meant nothing because you were just training your pet project?" "It wasn't like that," Ryan insisted. "It started as a bet, yes, but it became real. You became real to me." "When?" Lily demanded. "When did it become real? Last week? Yesterday? Or are you still acting right now, trying to salvage your investment? That's not fair. You want to talk about fair?" Lily's voice rose and people were starting to stare. She didn't care. "You took me off the street. You made me trust you. You made me think that maybe someone actually saw me as a person and not just another problem to solve or another bet to win. And the whole time your friends were laughing about what a good actor you are. Lily, please." She pulled off the diamond earrings and thrust them at him. "I'm done." "With the act, with the arrangement, with all of it. You can tell Derek he won. Congratulations on proving that you can transform anyone into a perfect little puppet." "You're not a puppet," Ryan said desperately. "You're the most real person I've ever met. You made me see how empty my life was, how fake everything was. Please, just let me explain." "I don't want your explanations," Lily said. And now the tears were falling. "I want to go back to being invisible. At least when I was homeless, I knew what I was. I knew what people saw when they looked at me. But you made me believe I could be something else, someone else. You made me forget that I was just a bet." The car arrived and Lily moved toward it. "Where will you go?" Ryan asked, panic rising in his chest. "Away from you," Lily said. "Don't try to find me. Don't call. Don't pretend you care. Just wire me the money from the contract and leave me alone." She got in the car and was gone before Ryan could find any more words. He stood there on the sidewalk in his expensive tuxedo, watching the taillights disappear, and felt his entire world collapse. Behind him, guests were filing out, the gala coming to an end. Derek appeared at his side, swaying slightly from too much champagne. "That looked dramatic," Derek said. "Trouble in paradise?" Ryan turned to face him, and whatever Derek saw in his expression made him step back. "You couldn't just let me have this, could you?" Ryan said quietly. "You had to win so badly that you destroyed the one good thing in my life." "It was a bet, man," Derek said defensively. "You knew the terms. Don't blame me because you caught feelings." "Get away from me," Ryan said, "and stay away. We're done. All of this, all of you, I'm done." He walked away, leaving Derek standing there looking confused. Ryan got in his own car and drove home through the empty streets. The city lights blurring through tears he didn't bother wiping away. The mansion was dark and empty when he arrived. The guest house was dark too. Lily's things were still there, but somehow Ryan knew she wasn't coming back for them. She'd rather start over with nothing than take anything from him. He'd wanted to prove he could transform someone's life. Instead, he'd broken something precious that he didn't know how to fix. And for the first time in his life, Ryan Mitchell had no plan, no strategy, no idea what to do next. All he knew was that he'd lost the only person who'd ever made him want to be better, and he had no one to blame but himself. Ryan wired Lily the money the next morning. $10,000 as promised, plus another $40,000 he added without asking. He included a note that just said, "I'm sorry," because anything else felt inadequate. The transfer went through, but she never acknowledged it. No text, no call, nothing. She'd meant it when she said she was done. He spent the first week calling her phone every day until it was disconnected. He drove to every shelter in the city asking if anyone had seen her. Nothing. It was like she'd vanished completely. And Ryan realized with a sick feeling that this was exactly what she'd learned to do on the streets. How to disappear. How to become invisible again. His friends kept texting, asking what happened, wanting gossip. Derek sent a message saying they should talk about the investment since Ryan had technically pulled off the transformation, even if it ended badly. Ryan blocked all of them. Every single person he'd considered a friend for the past 3 years, gone with a few taps on his phone. The mansion felt like a museum. Too big, too empty, too full of memories. Ryan would walk past the library and remember Lily curled up in the chair, reading aloud from her favorite passages. He'd see the couch where they'd fallen asleep during movies. The kitchen table where they'd had breakfast and talked about everything and nothing. He couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep properly. His assistant kept calling about meetings and deals that suddenly seemed completely meaningless. What was the point of making more money when he'd used his money to hurt the one person who'd made him feel like a real human being? 2 weeks after the gala, Ryan's grandmother showed up unannounced. She was 83, sharp as ever, and the only family member Ryan actually liked. She took one look at him and shook her head. "You look terrible," she said, walking into his kitchen and starting to make tea like she owned the place. "When was the last time you ate something that wasn't delivered?" "I don't know," Ryan admitted. "What are you doing here, Grandma?" "Mrs. Chen called me. Said you made a mess of things with a lovely young woman at Derek's gala. She thought you might need someone to talk to." His grandmother set a cup of tea in front of him. "So talk." Ryan told her everything. The bet, meeting Lily, the 3 months they'd spent together, how real it had become for him and how spectacularly he'd destroyed it all. His grandmother listened without interrupting, her face unreadable. "You're an idiot," she said when he finished. "I know." "No, I don't think you do," his grandmother continued. "You're not an idiot because you made a bet. Young men do stupid things, that's nothing new. You're an idiot because you're sitting here feeling sorry for yourself instead of doing something about it." "There's nothing to do," Ryan said. "She made it clear she doesn't want to see me. And you're just going to accept that? Give up because it's hard?" His grandmother shook her head. "I didn't raise you to be a quitter, Ryan. Your grandfather pursued me for 2 years before I agreed to marry him. 2 years of showing up, proving he meant what he said, demonstrating through actions that he was worth trusting. That was different." "It's not different," his grandmother interrupted. "You hurt her badly. You made her feel used and stupid for trusting you. Of course she doesn't want to see you right now. But if you actually love her, if this isn't just guilt talking, then you need to show her. Not with money or grand gestures, but by becoming the person she believed you could be." Ryan stared at his tea. "I don't know how to do that." "Then figure it out," his grandmother said firmly. "And while you're figuring it out, do something useful. That girl opened your eyes to how the other half lives, didn't she? To how many people are struggling while you throw money at problems. Use that. Make it mean something." After his grandmother left, Ryan sat in his empty house and thought about what she'd said. Lily had changed him, whether she knew it or not. She'd shown him a world he'd been ignoring, full of people working multiple jobs just to survive. People one emergency away from losing everything. People who were invisible to guys like him. He couldn't fix what he'd done to Lily. Not immediately, maybe not ever. But he could try to fix the parts of himself that had been broken enough to hurt her in the first place. The next morning, Ryan called his lawyer. "I want to set up a foundation," he said, "for homeless services, job training, housing assistance. Real help, not just throwing money at the problem." His lawyer was surprised but started drawing up the papers. Ryan donated $5 million to start, the amount he'd have lost if Derek's bet had gone the other way. Then he added another $5 million and another. By the time he was done, he'd committed $20 million and his personal involvement. But money was the easy part. Ryan started showing up at shelters, not to find Lily, but to understand. He volunteered serving meals, sorting donations, listening to stories. He met single mothers working 3 jobs, veterans dealing with PTSD, kids who'd aged out of foster care with nowhere to go. Each story made him feel smaller and more ashamed of the life he'd been living. One night at a shelter in Brooklyn, an older woman noticed him struggling to figure out the industrial dishwasher. "You're that tech guy," she said. "I've seen your picture in the papers." "What are you doing here?" "Trying to be useful," Ryan said honestly. "Trying to be better." "Better than what?" "Better than I was," Ryan replied. "I hurt someone I care about because I was too busy proving I was special, to realize that everyone deserves to be treated like they matter. So I'm here learning that lesson the hard way." The woman studied him for a moment. "The fact that you're here is something. Most people never even try. But be careful. Poor people aren't here to teach rich people lessons. We're just trying to survive." Ryan felt the sting of her words because she was right. Even his attempts to help were still centered on himself, on easing his guilt, on becoming worthy of Lily's forgiveness. "You're right," he said. "Thank you for being honest." "Someone needs to be," the woman said. "Now finish those dishes. We've got 50 more people to feed tonight." As weeks turned into months, Ryan's life transformed in ways he hadn't expected. He cut ties with his old social circle completely. stopped going to clubs and galas, sold the Hamptons estate. He moved into a smaller apartment in the city, something normal people might actually live in. His business associates thought he was having a breakdown. Maybe he was, but it felt more like waking up from a long sleep. He started attending city council meetings, advocating for affordable housing and better support services. He used his money and connections, but differently now, not to show off or win bets, but to actually help. He funded job training programs, paid for GED classes, helped people get IDs and work clothes and the million small things they needed to escape homelessness. His therapist, who he'd finally started seeing, told him he was processing guilt through action. Maybe that was true, but it also felt like he was discovering who he actually was beneath all the money and ego and need to prove himself. 4 months after the gala, Ryan was at a community meeting about a new shelter program when he saw someone familiar. Not Lily. He'd stopped actively looking, knowing she'd appear when she was ready or not at all. But it was Patricia, the stylist he'd hired to help Lily. "Ryan," Patricia said, looking surprised. "I heard you'd gone off the grid." "Not off the grid," Ryan said. "Just on a different grid. How have you been?" They talked for a while, and Patricia mentioned she'd started volunteering her services, helping people prepare for job interviews. She didn't mention Lily, and Ryan didn't ask, even though the question burned in his throat. But as they were leaving, Patricia stopped him. "She's okay," Patricia said quietly. "In case you were wondering, she got a job at a bookstore, found a small apartment. She's doing it all herself the way she wanted to. She's stubborn and proud and doing everything the hard way." Ryan felt relief wash over him. "Thank you for telling me." "I'm not telling you where she is," Patricia added quickly. "She made me promise not to, but I thought you should know she's safe." "That's all I needed to know," Ryan said, and he meant it. At night, alone in his apartment, Ryan would sometimes look at the one photo he'd kept from their time together. It was from that day at the bookstore in Brooklyn, a candid shot he'd taken when Lily wasn't looking. She was laughing at something she'd read, completely unself-conscious, completely herself. That was the Lily he'd fallen in love with. Not the polished version for society events, but the real person underneath. He'd framed the photo and kept it on his desk, a reminder of what he'd had and lost, but also a reminder of what he was working toward. Not getting her back necessarily, though he hoped for that every day, but becoming someone worthy of the faith she'd shown in him before he broke it. 6 months after everything fell apart, Ryan was invited to speak at a fundraiser for homeless services. He almost declined.